Facebook. Oh man, I lost my background. Look at that. What the heck?
This is awkward.
All right. Way to start Facebook Live. Hey guys, my name is Chris Chan. I'm the owner of Chelsea Place Senior Care and your host of Senior Source TV. And today we got Timothy Taylor from Charlotte Memorial Funeral Home and Cemetery. And we are and he's the pre-arrangement specialist over there at Charlotte Memorial. And so we're going to talk about
One of.
That's right. We got David Obermeyer and Timothy Taylor. So we just did actually a behind-the-scenes tour of your place, which is...
That was awesome.
Dude, it's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Just a beautiful facility. In fact, I mean, you literally, I mean, you're pulling up, it's a funeral home, but then when you walk in the door, you feel like you just escaped into an entire different dimension, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. But so today we're gonna bring to you guys 3 benefits of making these pre-arrangements, and then also what are 4 different types of cremation services. And the reality of it is we feel like it's so important that we can bring some educational tools to you guys so you can make the best plan possible for you or your loved one. And so that being said, Timothy, tell us about what are 3 reasons that, like, if I'm going through this process, and I don't know, maybe I should do this now. I don't know. Is this too early? But when it comes to pre-planning, like, why should I pre-plan my funeral services or my cremation services?
Okay. So just answering from experience, the first reason really, and I'll say all 3, and then I'll break them down.
Yeah.
The first reason is you're communicating to your family during a very emotional moment of devastation. They've never ever been without mom or dad. Maybe lived in a different town or city, but they are broken, and you as a parent are doing one final thing and communicating to them, listen, to help you get through this process of closure, because they've been there themselves, obviously, with their parents. You're able to communicate to them and line everything out so that at their brokenness, they're not worrying about business. They're not worrying about all these plans, because everything's in a folder and everything's secured and taken care of and notated and witnessed and signed and on and on. But 3 reasons, what you want. The second reason being locked-in prices, and third, the burden, in my view, in my experience, is much lessened during the time.
So we're reducing that burden for the family members.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to what you want, when it comes to that first point, like what have you seen over the years where that's been so important?
Oh, I've got a great story actually.
Okay.
Last year, there was this lady I met. She was in her mid-90s, and she had actually, at 5 p.m. every day, a martini. Okay. And the reason why it stuck out so much to me is, well, that, number 1. But number 2, she was so upset because they, in her words, downgraded her from gin to vodka. And I don't know what that means, but she was not happy about it. And so... and
her family did this?
Her family downgraded her. And I don't know if it was money
watering
or...
it down a
I don't know.
bit,
I don't know, but she noticed. She was a professional.
That caught you guys. I know.
She was a professional. And so when we had her pre-arrangements, obviously she was still alive. Up until 2 weeks before she passed away, she had this martini. And so at the time of her passing, what we did, and it was so neat. There's some things that really stay with you. You know what I mean? For her, we brought in a bar. We hired a bartender in-house, and we brought them in. We had this full granite bar. It was really nice. We had the Rat Pack going in the background. We had a tribute video of how she grew up, when she got married, when she had her kids, grandkids, great-grandchildren, the houses that they lived in.
Did you have all this stuff ahead of time? Like,
we didn't have the photos. We didn't have the photos, but we knew this. We knew her background and what why this was.
Because she had already come in and sat down with you guys. So
I'd met with her family and her. Yes.
Okay, cool. So another great point. So you met with her and the family to go over these like just likes, dislikes, things together. So you already have an idea of what is going on before this event ever took place.
I've got to tell you that there seems to be 2 different atmospheres whenever we call a family. We call it a first call. So someone just passed away and we're calling the family to reach out to them, let them know that we have their loved one in our care and so forth. But the 2 different atmospheres that I've noticed is that, one, if everything's pre-planned and signed, if they're being cremated, then they've already signed their authorizations, all those things. It's one thing to say, we have your mother in our care. She's pre-arranged and signed everything that she wanted and communicated that with us. When would you like the service? The second is the exact opposite, 180. mom just passed away, you're broken, there are no arrangements. Have you thought about cremation? Have you thought about embalming? Have you thought about cemetery?
Right.
What were her wishes? Yes.
Like overwhelming. Like,
and they're already overwhelmed.
And no one wants to talk about that subject, either. I mean, I feel like, I know I don't. Maybe it'll be different later down the road, but I know there's this like sense of like, I don't want to really talk about it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to talk about it. Like,
it's like going to the dentist.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
you hate going. So.
But there's a real brokenness,
in
these families. And whenever nothing is secured, nothing is communicated, you're relying on people to agree on something.
Right.
And
Which,
that
we know how well that goes.
Well, you've got the brokenness, the height of emotions. You've got if families. A lot of people that pass away here aren't from here, so you've got families that haven't seen each other in a while, flying in to make arrangements, and they have different backgrounds, different lifestyles.
I'm sure not only is that emotional for like what they're going through, but for you guys are like therapists all of a sudden. I'm sure it's like it's got to be an intense time because you're trying to like, to see maybe a family getting upset with each other and having to like. Actually like calm the situation down could be intense. I can imagine.
It's raw human emotion, and your heart breaks almost daily because what you read about in the paper, we're sitting across the table with the family at that time.
Which is why this is so important to take care of it ahead of time.
It is.
So that just have a plan in place.
I agree. That's the first point. The second point is locked in prices, and I hate to get into money, but it is just a part of the process.
Right. Out of curiosity, and I don't know if this is something you were going to touch base on or not, but as far as pricing is concerned, I mean, what is like what kind of pricing should I expect? I know that's a really loaded question.
Yeah.
But if you could give me a general idea for like my most simple to my most elaborate, like where am I at when it comes to pricing?
So we'll talk about cremation here in a few moments, but it tends to be that when you choose cremation, most of the time it is a bit lower than a full embalming, a full dressing, casketing, cosmetizing.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that here in a few minutes.
Okay.
But at an average price, so you've got cemetery that you have to think of.
Right.
And then you have funeral service. And so the last I read, the average funeral is $9,200.
Okay.
And that's aside from cemetery.
Gotcha.
For us, I don't think that's our average.
Right.
But
So that's just helpful to know, though. It gives you like an idea in general. Like, okay, so we're talking around $10,000 for a funeral service. I'm sure there's less and more, but that's an average.
There's a lot less, and there's a lot more.
Right.
You know.
Gotcha. Yeah. But at least it gives people a ballpark. Because I think if we're not even thinking about that, we might be like, hey, the state takes care of it or something like that. Who knows?
That's a question that comes up every once in a while.
Right. Does Medicare pay for this? No, the Medicare doesn't pay for that.
You just quoted a question from last week there. But yeah, so with pricing, the benefit is is that at the moment, and either down payment is secured or payment in full, just up front, is secured. That moment, the prices for the casket, the urn, the funeral service, the cemetery, everything that we provide on that end is locked in and frozen.
Okay.
So just a story. A lady had prearranged a bronze casket back in the late 90s, and she passed away 2018, and so last year. Yeah. That casket was around $3,700, I believe, around there, back in the 90s. When she passed away, it's actually on our selection wall. It's over 13 grand.
Wow.
But she locked it in, made payments on it, froze the payment, and so although everything went up every year, her policy and what she had on there was frozen and secured.
Right.
And whenever the family came in just to dot the I's and cross the T's and talk about service, although she'd already prearranged, you still want to go over everything.
Sure.
They saw the casket there, and we said that's what she purchased.
Right.
And just their face, wait, that's $13,000.
Yeah. It's almost like 4 times as much as what she
Yeah, absolutely. And so you lock that in, it's frozen, you get what you want, and then your kids aren't having to come up with 10 grand when they just lost their daddy, last week. And so for me, at least as a parent that knows that my children will have to think about this, I want to pay for that. I want to lock it in, freeze it, and just move on.
Right. Because really you're planning ahead of time so that there is a plan, so there's no family strife. Then you're also locking in pricing, so we're not putting that burden of cost to a family.
Yes,
So it's like the plan's in place, the pricing's already locked in. No one's going to have to take care of this from an expense. From the expense, and the cost wise. So yeah, I mean, just a huge benefit to the pre-planning side.
Yeah, just like everything, there's a raising cost in everything in this world. There's also a raising cost in dying as well. And so if you can lock that in, It's very wise. The more money you can save here, the more money you can give to your children and grandchildren, and et cetera.
Right. And just, and honestly, in my mind, I'm thinking just go in there, get it done, put the plan in place, pay for it, walk out, and don't think about it again.
Done. We'll have people that'll set up a payment plan with us, which is fine. You can have up to.
Oh, so you can do that too. So if you couldn't pay for it entirely up front, you can also have pay in installments. Or?
Sure.
Okay.
So as of right now, we do not charge any finance, and we do not charge any interest fees.
Okay.
And so you make a down payment, and we'll talk about that with the family, and then they just set up a payment plan. And so if they need 2 years, 3 years, we can go up to 59 months, 1 month short of 5 years.
Okay.
And they can have it drafted out of their account, or they can write their check themselves, or drop it by every month. But yes, it's very convenient. That way, the whole part of pre-planning, again, everything's signed, everything's paid for, everything's frozen, and they don't have to worry about any of this.
Gotcha. That's awesome.
So you can have payment plans, or you can just pay it out in front, pay it up front. I will tell you that I do have a lot of families that when they do set up a payment plan, about this 18 months later, they're tired of thinking about their casket on the 20th.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Because it's like that automatic payment's a reminder. Like,
my impending.
So just pay it off and forget about it.
Sure.
So no, that's interesting. Now, it was interesting because we were talking earlier in an interesting statistic, and so I thought we could transition maybe into like these 4 types of cremation.
Sure.
But an interesting stat that I thought you shared was is that for the first time you said I think in America we went from cremation is now 51% of the choices made when it comes to, I guess, a traditional casket or cremation services. So that's interesting. I mean, that's you could see that there's a lot of people that are going more towards the cremation route now.
Yeah.
And
what did Jimi Hendrix say? Times are changing.
Right.
It is what it is.
Exactly.
And so you're right. 2017 actually. I'm sorry. It was the first year, if I remember that date correctly, that America chose the majority, 51%, not a big majority, but still majority.
Because it wasn't even that big for a long time, right?
No, and it's steadily going up. In this area, I'm told that about 65% choose cremation.
Wow.
But there are different types of cremation, and for some reason.
What are those types?
Okay, so we'll just go over, at least for our funeral home, it's not, I don't know about every funeral home, but for our funeral home, we have 4 mainly. Number 1 is a direct cremation, and that really is just as
like
it sounds.
Your simple cremation. Okay, gotcha.
Sure, we bring into our care, and there's no services.
Right.
The second one, which is a little more common, is a cremation with a memorial.
Okay.
That way, we bring the deceased into our care. We actually have everything on site, and so if they are choosing cremation, then they're not going to come into our care and then 48 hours go into another vehicle and then on 75 to Sarasota or Fort Myers. They just come and they stay in our care. Okay. But the second type is a cremation with a memorial, and that's when the cremation process takes place, and then afterwards there's a memorial service in their honor with their urn, their cremated remains, and then family and friends in the church can come and memorialize, celebrate.
Gotcha.
The third one is I guess what we call a traditional cremation. And Chris, that's where you have a full traditional service beforehand, before cremation even takes place.
Right.
And so there's embalming, there's cosmetizing, there's a viewing if you'd like, or a closed casket, which is more for a visitation.
Gotcha.
But that right there, traditional cremation, traditional service followed by cremation.
Right.
So full body and then cremation afterwards.
Gotcha.
The fourth, I see a lot of families starting to gravitate towards this, Chris.
Yeah.
It's called, they're different names, but sort of a hybrid of both, okay? It's some people just aren't comfortable being viewed, you know? Yeah. And so what this is you can actually, as long as it's not a public service, you can have a private viewing.
Right.
10, 15 people, children. That last time they get to visit with their mom or dad is something that it stays with them, you know, and especially if mom and dad were snowbirds and now they live here, and they haven't seen their grandchildren in a year or two, or however long that is. What an opportunity it is to be able to see grandma or mom one more time, versus 5 years ago when I saw her last and spend time. So you can actually have a viewing, private viewing beforehand, and then cremation takes place, and then a memorial service for the public and for friends and family.
Gotcha.
So it's sort of a hybrid of both.
Right. So there's a lot of options, a lot of customization as far as what people want, what their needs and desires are. So which is why like you shouldn't wait till the last minute, because there's so, I mean, like the more we had spent, and we haven't even gone through all of it. We're just talking about, you know, cremation and just kind of some basic pre-planning stuff. But the more time we've spent, even just me learning more about it, I'm just like, wow, like this is something I definitely don't want to wait or put on my family. I don't want to put that all that, because there's too many options. I mean, I can't imagine being hysterical, being like just going through such a loss and going through that pain, that suffering, however that may be, and having to make some of these decisions during that time. I just can't even imagine what that would be like, you know?
As a former pastor and someone that's now served at the funeral home for the past few years, you don't get a second chance at this.
Right.
You know, you get one service, and to be able to walk your family through that beforehand, it is, in my view, one of the greatest things you can do with them or for them in the midst of their utter devastation.
Right.
You know, you don't get a second chance, and so the more you can think about this rationally instead of emotionally, the more it can be much more personal for them. I'll even, a lot of times, Chris, I'll give the families that prearrange with me the option of, why don't you consider writing a letter to each one of your children and seal it and hand it to me? And I'll leave it in your file, and then at the moment of your passing, when our funeral director calls your children, they can hand them that letter from you, and it's sealed. We don't know what's in it. You know, but it's
it's just that little extra touch, though. I mean, you know, just taking that, like, what else? What more can I do to help, you know, the family through this experience? You know, like how can I? And then I'm sure even for that person that's writing that letter, you know, I'm sure they're, you know, that means a lot to even them. You know, they have the opportunity to write that letter to their loved one. You know,
again, things have changed so much for me since I've had kids. And you're about. Right?
Well, yeah, I got a 4-year-old, and I got another one on the way, man. So any day now. She might have called. I don't know.
She might have called. Everything's on silent right now.
It's crazy, you know. So yeah, we're excited though. Got a boy on the way. So got the boy-girl combo. Really excited, man. It's an exciting time. You know.
Isn't that incredible?
It's awesome, man. I love it. It's amazing. It really is. Kids are something else, and to see like a mixture of, like, you know, you and your wife's you know, personality in the child is just really cool. So.
Yeah, I've got stories, but they're probably we'll talk later.
No, it's awesome though, man. It's awesome.
But I'm happy for you though.
Do you have?
2, Joshua and Caleb.
Okay.
Caleb's about to turn 7.
Okay.
And then Joshua's 18 months old, going on 4.
Gotcha.
You know, you'll find with your second one, Chris, at least with us.
They grow faster?
Yeah, because they see a big brother or sister running around, and they want to do everything they do.
And then it's cool seeing that, how in that environment, you know, the environment that we're in, like how much faster we grow, because, you know, we're emulating what our brother or sister.
Everything changes. Everything changes. But
exciting though, right?
In a good way, absolutely. Joy, authentic, real joy. I mean, we're human, you know, but now we're having a different podcast episode.
Anyone can relate though, you know. No, it's I really appreciate this information, because I think it's so important for people to make these plans in advance. I know, like when someone, you know, moves into our assisted living facility, we always make sure that, like, we ask them, hey, have you made funeral arrangements? You know, because we want to have that plan in place, even ourselves, on their behalf, in case something were to happen, so we know what to do.
Wise, responsible too.
Just as the facility, so we're not sitting there, you know, unsure as to, well, what happens next. So, you know, we want to have our own game plan too, that we can make sure that we handle things the way the family wanted us to handle them as well.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's just important that people realize, you know, that, you know, even if this is something you don't want to sit down and figure out or talk about, I mean, it's like life insurance. No one wants to plan out how much I need, but the reality of it is you need to do this because it's important for your loved ones. So it's like you got to take the focus off yourself and put it on the fact that, like, hey, I got to make sure that my loved ones know exactly what I want, and I can, you know, take that burden off of them. So, you know, hey, if anyone's listening, I just want to be, you know, the exhumas, cremation sprinkled over the exhumas. I'm good.
You want to go on record?
I'm good. I'm just on record there. So in case anyone wants to know,
we need to get a notary in here.
You know?
We need to get a notary.
So, no, I appreciate your time today. So what would be the best way, if anyone had any other questions? I know there's a lot of other stuff we didn't cover, but if anyone had other questions, what's the best way for them to reach out to you to just, you know, be educated in this area, you know?
Sure. If I could just say one more thing with prearrangements, whether you come to our funeral home or any other funeral home in the county, there's a handful of beautiful funeral homes here, really. It's so important, especially if you have family outside of the state and they're in a different time zone, different state, that they know who to call. And so I would highly recommend, on a very human level, sit down with a few funeral homes, get a feel for them. That way, you know, if there's money concerns, not all funeral homes allow pre-arrangements. You have to meet certain qualifications through the state.
Right.
But if you don't want to pre-fund your arrangement with us, you can actually have an unfunded pre-arrangement. That way, we still know everything you wanted, all the required signatures, you've done that.
Right.
You're still giving your family direction. So whether you come to us or another place, I highly recommend that you sit down with someone at some point and write that down.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to answer your question about how to connect with me, again, Charlotte Memorial Funeral Home and Cemetery, and my number at the office, Chris, is 941-639-1171, and my email address isttaylor, that's Timothy Taylor, at charlottememorial.com. We're on Facebook, charlottememorial.com. There's not many funeral homes on Facebook that are active.
I can't imagine.
Or what you guys do.
Hey, we're trying, man. We're just trying to educate the community. I mean, that's what it's all about, is just providing people with education so they can make informed, decisions, So, we appreciate you being on the show today, and and of course, if you guys have any questions, we'll make sure that on the replay that you have the links or the contact information to reach out to Timothy. And so, just thank you guys for watching. Thank you for this awesome community, for your support. Of course, if you haven't yet, make sure you get a copy of Florida's 5-Step Guide to Senior Care. It's a completely free resource. It's going to help you walk through all these different steps that you need to. I mean, this is just one of many steps that you should just be aware of. So Florida's 5-Step Guide to Senior Care. It's a free PDF, and we'll make sure we can mail it to you. You can download it for free, whatever is easiest and most convenient for you guys. If you have any other questions that you guys would like to know specifically, please let us know, and we'll make sure that we answer them for you. And then, of course, if you haven't already, hey, like our page, share this. If you found this information to be valuable, share it with someone else. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe on our YouTube channel. I appreciate all your help, and thank you for your guys' support.
Is there a concert next door of Elvis going on? I heard an acoustic guitar.
Yeah, we got a little live music going on, a little live music action.
Are there 40 World War II generation people dancing in there?
Probably. Yeah.
They have more fun than people are.
That's right, man. We're going to check them out, So come on down. But no, thanks, Timothy. Appreciate your time, man. Appreciate it, brother. You guys are the man. I appreciate all that you guys do, man. It's awesome. I'm always like, when I hit the end thing, I'm like,